are going to be involved in, then they have to assume some responsibility for their own actions. But Johnny's right, it's very possible that they'll end up being workers' compensation injuries, because you don't have to prove liability with workers' compensation. If you're injured, it is covered. And if they consider them to be employees, then they're going to be covered under their insurance.
First question. Was signage doing anything for us, like out there in the inter-use arena that you're on with us?
Not that general. I mean, you can put it on, I mean, it's always a good idea, but it's too general. And the problem with the fair is that we charge them to get in.
Well, I mean, every day, riding, of course, they pay to go in, there.
Right, yes. Well,
So that sign's not doing anything at all.
Well, it depends on what they're doing. For equine events, if they're coming in to use their horses, there's a specific statute that tells you the exact language that has to be on the sign and the size of the lettering and stuff. And if you put that sign up, then you are immune from injuries that they have while riding their horses at your facility. But you can't fake it. You
yeah,
have to
it's
use
got to
the exact
comply
language of the
exactly.
statute.
I have a question about that. Do you have to know if that's the sign that used our horse council's been selling?
Say that again?
I didn't have to review it, but I would guess if they're selling something that they make sure it complies with the statute.
The question was if that's the sign the Utah Horse Council has been selling.
Oh, I don't know. I would have to look into that.
But you can pull up the statute and see what it is and see what the wording is, because that's what we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Another one. This just happened yesterday, and I I could have just brought a little sideshow of this on my cameras. Our server's been down since Friday, I think, when you know that. On and off, they keep losing the server, and I have no phones, but I have my computer. It's my DVR backup. It's all computerized. And I'm looking over at the building across from ours, and it's WIC, which is Women, Infants, and Children. These two little twins, or 5-year-old little girls, playing with one of our toy boxes, and we put them together about a year ago. And they were 68 pounds apiece. They're heavy duty, you sit on the ground. Well, they crawl over the top of them and that, and they usually are pretty good about, the parents getting them off there. Well, these two little girls are tipping it up, up so they can get underneath. And it went on for about at least 12 minutes on the camera. And I couldn't call the front desk because the phones were down. So I said, another maintenance guy to run over there real quick. It had tipped. They were crawling up, taking turns. And the bad thing about it is the parents were sitting there watching them do this. They had 3 other kids, so they had 5 kids altogether. If that would have fell, it would have probably, at least her head was under there. It's like it was a game. If it would have fell, it would have broke her neck. Because it broke when it hit the ground. They did break it. It's 68 pounds. And they were like, they're twin little 5-year-old girls.
Yeah.
Would we have been liable? We would have, wouldn't we? Even when their parents were there watching it.
I would suspect that they would somehow implicate you. I don't think in the long run that it would stick, because in that particular instance, they were being watched by their parents. The parents don't get to shift their responsibilities onto you.
Excellent.
So if you can, especially if you were videotaping
Oh,
it,
yeah, everything.
and you had evidence of mom and dad sitting there watching them do that, nothing would have stuck to you.
And this kind of stuff happens a lot at that building. The kids, there's so many people coming for free services, and they have other kids, so they're pertaining to the small young ones, but it's always busy there.
Did you know you hired on as a babysitter?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
proper measurement now for security, So it's yeah.
Kind of on those same lines, if you have like some landscape boulders, rocks, good size, kids love to play on those.
Well, they do.
Are those hazards?
Those are hazards of a permanent nature. And yes, they can be called hazards. Anything can be called a hazard. If you water, which of course you have to do, and that water drips off of the foliage and onto the sidewalk and gets really wet, you know how slippery leaves can be when they're stuck in the ground. Somebody comes along and slips and falls on that is a hazard. It's not a defect, but it's a hazard. And since you actually created that, but it ends up being a hazard of maintenance. your rocks, if you let them play on them, become a hazard of a permanent nature. A sign would be really good there.
If it was designed for them to play on, that.
Oh, they were designed for them to play on, well, what's down below if they slip?
No, I'm saying this is like a hypothetical.
Oh,
Oh.
no, wait, I was gonna say, you can't say.
Well, I was gonna say, one thing you can do is put in those, instead of putting in actual rocks, put in those rubber rocks. That rubber stuff that you
Oh,
put
yeah.
on playgrounds.
Anytime they know though, if these guys have seen this, they have to remedy that.
They do.
Or if they can be proved in court, then you're done, you're.
Especially permanent
They got you.
hazards.
Right.
If you created the hazard, you're much more likely to be found liable than if it's a temporary hazard. So,
A big difference there will be the charge for them to play on that. Because under the Recreational Immunity Act, both for everyone, but for government especially, because you've got it in two different places, as long as you don't charge, somebody who's recreating on your property doesn't have a lawsuit against you.
or if it's $1 or less.
I'll tell you what I was really thinking here. I feel kind of silly bringing this up now because I'm afraid it was just a stupid idea, but we're gonna build a playground down at the Legacy Center, and whenever I take my kids somewhere, the rock is just as fun as the swing set. And so I wondered if, in addition to a playground, if you could have like a perimeter, and sometimes it's seen as a parking lot barrier, a perimeter with rocks that, kind of act as maybe a double duty, they're perimeter and there's something the kid can play on.
Well, that is a little bit different issue because of the protections afforded to recreation areas. So you don't charge for them to go in there, you're protected. I mean, absolutely protected, if it's free, or if it's less than $1. However, if you have something, say you have a park, and in the park you put in a carousel, and the ceiling tiles in the carousel fall and hit somebody, those are actually going to be considered a temporary hazard, even though it's in a recreation center. So each one is going to be an individual case, but the things that you can prevent, and it's a long list, if you know about it and you think it's a hazard, then it's going to be considered a defect. So.
Another thing, then I take a deep back
Sure.
in this thing, but the risk management teams should be going around in all counties and looking at the things that are like that and remedying them. And so when you get a situation like this, like kids or like what other things we discussed, risk management needs to go over this.
They should, but that's so much more official. In our day-to-day, when you're walking to and from work or from the parking lot into the building, if you see things that should be addressed, bring them to somebody's attention. Because if someone knows about it, that knowledge can be imputed to the county. So it's important that if you see something you think is a hazard, tell somebody, so that they can address it. Anything else?
So with that,
Thank you.